Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to today's Wild Rift guide. In today's guide, we're going to be taking a look at the Might of Demacia Garen. Garen is a fighter that is played in the Baron lane or in the mid lane against scary AD assassins. Garen is one of the easiest champions to play, yet is still one of the strongest because of his tankiness and true damage execution from his ultimate Demacian Justice. Taking a quick look through the build with Garen. As a fighter, you want to build items that give you both damage and also tankiness. So you could be a frontline tank for your team, but also deal enough damage to make a difference during a team fight. So for your first item, you want to go for Hullbreaker. Gives you both tankiness and damage stats that you need, maximum health and attack damage. The boarding party passive as well is very, very good if you are isolated. It gives you some more tanky stats, and it also allows your minions to also gain some more tanky stats as well. So this will help you a lot in the 1v1 scenarios during the laning phase. Then we want to go for Black Cleaver. Again, another item that gives us a mixture of both attack damage and maximum health. You also get a little bit of ability haste, which is nice. The Sunderer passive, dealing physical damage to a champion, reduces their armor by percentage for a few seconds, stacking up to 6 times. This means that when you're spinning, when you're doing auto attack damage, it means you're going to be able to deal more damage each time. And you also have the Rage passive, which gives Garen movement speed. Now, Garen doesn't really have a lot of mobility abilities, so being able to get movement speed from Black Cleaver allows you to stay on top of enemy champions and deal the damage that you need. For the boots, I think plated steel caps, or you can go for Mercury treads. Any one of the two defensive boots are very, very strong. And if your boots upgrade, most of the time you want to go for stone plate, but stasis is also another good option. The reason why I go for plated steel caps instead of Mercury treads is because our second ability allows us to reduce the crowd control of any enemy's abilities coming towards us. So we just go for plated steel caps. We don't need really Mercury treads because we have our second ability. Then we want to go for Sterix Gauge. Obviously this is an only melee item, but it gives us a lot of maximum health, but also gives us the heavy-handed passive, which gives us plus 50% base attack damage as bonus attack damage. So it means we're gonna be able to deal more damage. And when we do drop low on health, we have the lifeline passive, which will be able to help us, giving us a shield that will allow us to survive for a little bit longer. And it also allows us to increase our size, and it grants us tenacity, which will reduce any crowd control coming our way. And then at this point of the game, you probably want any sort of anti-heal, so any sort of grievous wounds. So Thorn Mail for me is the best option. You don't really find a benefit from Mortal Reminder, so you go for Thorn Mail because this is more of a tanky item. Maximum health, armor is really, really nice. Thorn's passive means that you'll be able to deal a little bit of damage when enemies are attacking you, but also they will also be inflicted with grievous wounds. That means they won't be able to heal as much as you're staying on top of them, dealing a lot of damage. And then your last item is a little bit flexible. If you do need magic resist, then you can go for Force of Nature, and it also gives you a little bit of movement speed as well. But if you don't need the magic resistance, you can also go for Randwid's Omen, which is really good against champions that deal a lot of critical strike damage. And you also got Dead Man's Plate as well, which is the kind of alternative to Force of Nature, but the armor alternatives that also gives us a little bit of extra movement speed. Now for the runes, Grasp of the Undying is your go-to rune for Garen. It's really easy to walk up and take short trades with Garen. That means you'll be able to proc Grasp the Undying very, very easily, which allows us to heal for a percentage of our health, gain permanent health, and also deal a little bit of extra bonus damage as well when we're taking them little short trades. Triumph with Garen, you always want to try and jump into the back line. You want to try and deal as much damage as possible to the carries and get them low enough so then your ultimate will be into execute range. And then if we do get a champion takedown, then we do restore 10% of our missing health, and we also deal 5% more damage to champions that are low on health. For the resolve tree, Second Wind can also be replaced by bone plating if you feel like you don't need Second Wind, but Second Wind works very, very well with Garen's passive, because Garen's passive heals us out of combat and is exactly the same as Second Wind. So it's basically like an empowered version of your passive, and these both work on top of each other. So that means when you're going for them short trades during the laning phase, when you back off, you'll be able to heal up a lot of health from both Second Wind and also Garen's passive. And then for the last rune, we have Demolish. Because we're going for Hullbreaker, it means that we can deal a lot of damage to towers, and it means we can take towers very, very quickly, especially in the early game, and Demolish will help us with that as well, and try and get a few tower plays before they drop after 6 minutes, so we can get that little bit of a gold advantage. And then for the summer spells, we have Flash and Ignite. You can switch out Ignite for Barrier if you feel like you want to play a lot more safe, but since Garen is already very tanky, Ignite will allow you to take the trades and win the trades in the early game. So that's pretty much everything for the build. Let's head on to the abilities. Now, with Garen's abilities, they're all pretty straightforward, so I'm not expecting to go through in much detail, but there are a few little things that I want to mention with some of the abilities. So let's head into it. First up, let's take a look at his passive, which is Perseverance. If Garen has not been struck by damage or enemy abilities within the last 5 seconds, he regenerates missing health per second. As I mentioned, this works on top of second wind, and you can see as well that there's a little healing icon around Garen at the moment. This means that his passive is running, and obviously when I just take damage, then you don't see the healing anymore, but you can hear a little tiny ding, which you should hear soon. There you go. You heard a little tiny sound there. That is basically meaning that my passive is now running. So that means I'm healing a lot every single second. So again, pretty straightforward for the passive. For the first ability, we have Decisive Strike. You break free from all slows, becoming immune to them for 0.5 seconds and gaining movement speed as well for a few seconds. The next attack within a few seconds is empowered to deal additional physical damage and silence the target for a few seconds as well. Now, the important thing with this ability is that you don't really want to waste it. That immunity to slow is very important, and you being able to get that little bit of extra movement speed can be the difference between you closing the gap onto an enemy champion. So you just don't want to use it just like freely as much as you want, to get that little bit of extra movement speed. It's much better to just use it when you're pretty close to an enemy champion. So for example, you can auto Q auto if you want to as well, to make sure you get that little bit of a burst trade, or if you're close, you can quickly use your Q to get a little bit of extra movement speed, silence them, and that silence allows you to use other abilities on top of that. Now, really quick combos that you can use your first ability to silence, and then allows you to use your ultimate, and then the enemies can't do anything to break out of the silence. So just a few little things there, but like I said, nothing too crazy with the first ability either. Just make sure you don't waste it just by like running to lane or something like that, or just use it by not even using the empowered attack. For the second ability, we have Courage. Again, another ability that you don't really want to waste. You have to pretty much time it perfectly. It reduces all damage taken for 5 seconds, and for the first second, damage is reduced by 60%, and Garen gains Tenacity. Now, the Tenacity means that any incoming crowd control will be reduced. That means that if you're about to be hit by like a Lux Light Binding or a Morgana Dark Binding, make sure you use your second ability, because that means that you're not going to be rooted for as long as if you didn't use your second ability. Damage is reduced by 30% for the remaining duration, and Tenacity reduces the duration of most movement impairing effects, which I just mentioned. So it's actually really important to make sure that you don't waste this ability. It's actually really important to, when you're going in for them short trades, you use it when you're about to take damage, because if you don't have this ability up and available, it has quite a long cooldown in the early game. You can see 15 seconds. So if you waste this ability in the early game, you are going to be very vulnerable. So when you're going in for the short trades, make sure you use this ability to take the damage reduction. But you can see all you do is press the ability, and whoop-de-doo, I get reduced damage and also Tenacity coming towards me. And you can see there's a little bit of an effect around me, which shows from your team and also the enemy team that I have my second ability up and available. For the third ability is Judgment. You rapidly spin in a Blade Storm for a few seconds, dealing physical damage a few times, and enemies hit by the Blade Storm's outer edge are critically struck to deal additional damage. You can recast the stop spinning, and this will deal 100% damage to monsters. Now, you can see here, if I use, it's really difficult to actually kind of tell because you can't really hold the ability, but when you use the ability, if you stand really close to an enemy target, you can see that I'm not dealing as much damage. However, if I use this ability and I'm on the outer edge, you can see that I'm critting for more damage every time. So it's actually really important when you're moving with your third ability to make sure that you're always staying on the outer edge. If I stay here and if I stay on the outer edge, for all three of these enemies, I'm dealing crit damage every single time. And this also works on minions as well. So when you're trying to push the minion wave, when you're trying to rotate around the map, make sure that you're using your third ability on the outer edge so you can push the minion waves quicker. It allows you to roam a lot easier and and much quicker as well. Again, not really much else to say, about this ability. Just make sure that you keep on your on the outer edge, and like I said, when you combo it with your first ability, it means that you can use your third ability. Like, say for example, if you're trying to kite back, you can use your third ability to kite back, because you're not actually losing any movement speed or anything at all when using your third ability. So that means if enemies keep chasing you, they're going to be they're going to keep taking damage every single time. Now for the ultimate, we have Demacian Justice. So you call forth the might of Demacia to execute an enemy champion, dealing true damage equal to, you know, whatever, how much damage there is of the target's maximum health, or missing health, I should say. Nearby enemies also take true damage equal as well to their missing health. So the important thing is that the more damage you deal depends on the target's missing health. This means that this is an execution ultimate, so you don't want to waste this at the start of a team fight. You don't want to waste this as you're starting the trade. You want to wait until the enemies are low on health, and when they are low on health, that means that your ultimate will be able to deal more damage, and that is the most critical part about this ultimate. I've seen Garen's use the ultimate at the start of the team fight when someone's full on HP. It does no damage at all. Some people use it to just gap close, and it's not the way you use Garen's ultimate. You want to use your first ability, use your third ability to get the enemies low enough, and then use your ultimate afterwards when the enemies are low on health to execute them with your ultimate. But you, like I mentioned, you can use this as a gap closer. As you can see, the range is quite big, so you can use your ultimate if they are maybe a little bit low on health, and if you feel like you can use your ultimate and then use your first ability and spin afterwards to be able to kill them, then yes, you can use this as a gap closer. But most of the time, like I said, the basic combo you want to do is use your first ability and then use your ultimate, and this doesn't give enemies enough time to be able to react. If they get silenced, that means they can't flash away, they can't use abilities like Fiora's parry to stop the ultimate, so that means you can easily deal damage with the ultimate and deal as much damage as possible. Taking a look at the leveling order now for Garen. At level 1, you have two choices. You can either start with your third ability and push the wave in the early game. This will give you quick access to level 2 and will give you early lane control. However, if you want to take more trades in the early game, then I would much recommend go for the first ability. That means you can auto attack and take little trades against enemy champions. But most of the time, I like to go for my third ability because I like to get that lane control in the early game and get level 2 as quick as possible. And then level 2, you want to go for your first ability. That means you have your 2 damage abilities available, and then you want to go for your the second ability. Now this might surprise a lot of people, but you actually max your third ability with Garen on Wild Rift. Now, the reason why we max our third ability is that you can see here, the base damage goes up by so much, the AD damage and also the crit damage all go up by so much. Sometimes you want to max your first ability, especially on like PC League, for example, but as you can see, you don't really get that much. You only get base damage. The extra damage that you get from Judgment and the extra wave clear you get from Judgment is so important. So you want to make sure that you max your third ability first, and then you want to max your second ability, because with your second ability, you can see it reduces the cooldown, which is very important as we get into later stages of the game, and it also increases the duration by 1 second every single rank. So that means that we'll be able to take less damage for a longer amount of time, and that means we can use this ability more often. And obviously making sure you level up your ultimate when possible, and then you want to level your first ability last. So that is pretty much everything with Garen. As I said, a very easy champion to play, but a very dominant champion at the moment. So we're going to head into a gameplay now. I'm going to tell you all the tips and tricks in the gameplay, and I'll see you all in just a bit. All right, on to the gameplay we go with Garen. Now, for me, Garen is probably my most played Baron Lane champion. I don't think there's really any other Baron Lane champion I prefer to play, just because the champion is very easy. Obviously, Baron Lane is not my main role, so I like to play champion that's kind of easy to play, but also very broken, and Garen definitely is that. It's quite surprising, actually, how much damage Garen can deal, but also how much you can tank as well with Garen. Now, with Garen in the early game, he can struggle a lot, especially against champions like Fiora as well, because Fiora has quite a lot of mobility and Garen does struggle a little. You can see that I started my first ability here, and most important thing you want to note with Garen in the early game is when you have Grasp of the Undying. So you can see at the bottom of the screen at the moment that every single time I auto attack, I'm waiting basically for the proc of Grasp of the Undying. So what you have to do with Grasp of the Undying is you have to auto attack or take damage a few times, and then you'll get that empowered auto attack against an enemy champion. So that means you'll be able to heal up, you'll be able to deal extra damage, which is really, really nice. You can see Fiora's also gone for Kraken Slayer, but kind of overextends a little bit here. And as you can see, the spin to win always comes out on top. So what I did there is I used my first ability to silence, and the silence is actually really, really important against Fiora. So that means that she can't really dash away or use her parry to basically defend herself. So that means that I was able to use my first ability, silence her, and then you can see what I did with my third ability is I wasn't running crazy speed towards Fiora. I was making sure that I was on the outer edge of my third ability the whole time, and that meant that I was able to deal the crit damage and deal enough damage with Ignite to Fiora to kill her, which is a great start. As you can see, with most Baron laners, what you want to do is you want to start with Ruby Crystal. The Ruby Crystal with the maximum health is just the most benefit that you can get in the early game. Longsword is okay, you know, you get a bit of attack damage, but the attack damage you get is not as much effective stats as what is, you know, if you get a Ruby Crystal. The maximum health is so much more important in the early game. So what I like to do is I like to go for the Ruby Crystal, and then after the Ruby Crystal I then build towards Hullbreaker, and most of the time you still get Hullbreaker before that first dragon at around the 5-minute mark. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to trade. Now, that's one thing you have to be careful for with Fiora. It's kind of mind games Garen against Fiora, because with Garen, you can use your first ability and also you can deal a lot of damage. But the problem is that it can get parried by Fiora, so you do have to be very, very careful. So you kind of want to, running with your first ability, bait the parry and then try to silence afterwards. But like I said, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult, and it's all about the mind game. So you can see why there that I basically stop all damage. You can see here, Fiora wastes her parry. That means I'm able to go in with my Ignite and I'm able to take her very, very low. I was very, very close to getting into range there of using my ultimate. I just wanted to make sure that Fiora was low enough. But you can see, because the mind game's kicking in, Fiora was not able to use used her parry too early, sorry, and that meant that I was able to walk in, use my silence to deal a lot of damage. And what you see here, what you want to do is, again, waiting for the parry, silence into ultimate, and I nearly do enough damage. There you go. The damage just comes in, I think, from the minions in the end. So I nearly misplayed that a little bit. Obviously, tower damage in the early game is very, very scary. I nearly misplayed it, but I was able to do enough damage in the end. So again, like I said, mind games is always the thing with Garen, especially when you're playing against Fiora as well. But as you can see there, twice there, Fiora tried to kind of predict that I was going to use my first ability, so tried to block it with the parry, Fiora's second ability, but unfortunately used it too early. That meant I had my freedom to use my first ability, use my Ignite, spin, and then use my ultimate. As you can see, I didn't do that much damage to kill them with the ultimate, but it was enough in the end because the minion damage that she was taking as well. Sorry, just taking a quick drink. You can see that I already have Hullbreaker. Obviously, I do have quite an early game lead. And you can see how much damage Garen deals to towers as well. With Demolish, I was able to get 2 tower plates there, which is really, really big. You know, you might think like, oh, 2 tower plates is not that big. You get a lot of gold from tower placings in the early game. And that means that I'm able to get this really, really strong early game lead. I can constantly keep pushing this lane, and this allows me to roam. It allows me to get vision. As you can see, I see Morgana here. You know, she's not going to walk up. I think I can win the 1 versus 2 fight. So you can see that Morgana, even though she's trying to look to gank, she can't really gank at the moment because I am very, very strong. And now that I have Hullbreaker, I'm now going to become even stronger. Now, Hullbreaker is really good if you want to play the side lane, if you want to split push. And obviously this early on in the game, when dragons are just spawning, we don't have to worry too much about grouping. We can stay in the side lane if we want to. We can try and take this first tower of the game, and this makes it even more difficult for Fiora to try and trade with us because our minions are going to be stronger, but also we're going to be stronger as well. We're going to have more armor and more magic resists. So you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm pinging that Fiora is missing. The rest of my team seems to be doing okay in mid lane. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this lane. I see an advantage that I may be able to get the first tower of the game, but Fiora is still here. As you can see, I'm in a bit of a level lead. Fiora used the ultimate. Not really too sure why Fiora uses the ultimate and Ignite here. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to walk up and get the Demolish proc. There you go. That's exactly what I was waiting for. So I was waiting for the Demolish proc. I was waiting to, you know, move closer. So I was trying to like move closer, to get that ticking time bomb basically of the demolish, and when it ended I was able to finish it off, which is really nice. Again, look, you can see I'm trying to play mind games with this Fiora. I tried to use my first ability and bait her to use her parry. Unfortunately, she didn't use it, but again, she used her parry there. That means I'm able to flash, silence, and ultimate, so she doesn't even have an opportunity to use her ability to dash away or even try and flash away if she wants to. And that means that I have free reign over this tower, and I can easily get the first tower of the game here. So again, all mind games. I used my first ability at the start to try and bait Fiora. You can see that I didn't actually go in and use the first ability or use the empowered auto attack. I tried to play mind games. Again, Fiora kind of misplayed, kind of wasted her parry again, which allowed me to flash in. I saw that she was low on health, so I could flash in, use my ignite, use my ultimate, and deal that execute a little bit of damage. And at this point of the game, when you're this far ahead as Garen, like I said, this champion is absolutely disgusting. I mean, not only are you going to be very tanky, but you're also going to be dealing a lot of damage. I have Black Cleaver completed now as well. That means when we're spinning, when we're dealing all the physical damage that we can deal, we're going to be reducing the armor on enemy champions. That means we're going to be able to deal more damage and execute with our ultimate as well. You can see how quickly you can wave clear. As I mentioned during the you know, the leveling order, your wave clear with your third ability is really fast. Now I'm just going to go into the mid lane and just auto attack that very quickly. I get the shared gold with the tower. And you can see all I need to do is just rotate around the map at the moment. I'm going all the way up to top lane. Why not? We got bot lane tower, we got mid lane tower. Now it's time to go top lane. Unfortunately, they do have a vision ward here. But if my bot lane do push this wave, then maybe we're able to do it. But the charm lands from the Ahri, which was very clutch. I'm trying to get into range to ultimate. I unfortunately didn't get the ultimate there on the Lucian, but we're still able to deal enough damage. Katarina comes in. I silence her with my first ability. You can see, unfortunately, here, I did take the tower aggro. I maybe should have walked the other way instead, but the problem was that Katarina still had her third ability available. So that means that if I stayed close enough, she could still dash towards me. But you can see Diana's cleaning up anyway. So maybe a little bit of an overextension. You can see I was trying to get that movement speed with my first ability to get into range of my ultimate. But Ahri was able to do enough damage anyway. But pretty much a 3-for-1 trade. We killed the Lucian, we killed the Thresh, and also the Diana killed the Katarina. And I only died for it. You know, I'll take it. And you know, I'll completely take that. As a, you know, as a Baron laner, as a tank, sometimes you got to take a hit for the team. Now, me roaming meant that Fiora did take the tower in the bot lane, unfortunately. So Fiora does have a little bit of gold to get back. But hopefully me getting, me roaming around the map and me getting an advantage around the map will help the team. Which kind of what you need to do as a Baron laner is either do you rotate or do you split push? You know, that's always the decision you need to make as a Baron laner. When's the best time to push? When's the best time to rotate? And I saw an advantage there where my bot lane was already pushed. Our mid lane was pushed as well with Rift Herald. And you can see mid lane tier 2 is very low. So I was like, you know what? I've got nothing else to do at the moment. I don't really have enough gold to go back to base. So I might as well rotate and go all the way up to Baron lane. So you can see I'm just walking forward here. And you can see I'm just going to take reduced damage from the minions because I'm using my second ability. And you can see pretty much one full charge of your third ability is enough to clear an entire minion wave. So that's all you need to do. I see the Lucian here. I kind of used my second ability a little bit too early. I maybe could have waited for the Dark Binder, but you can see you can see the leap in the end. I was able to use my ultimate just before Lucian dashed, and because my ultimate was in animation as Lucian was dashing, it's basically like I had a dash in the end. So I just dashed onto the Lucian and dealt enough damage. You can see how strong I am right now. I'm 5-1. It's 10 minutes into the game. Like I said, sometimes Garen's weakness is his laning phase. His laning phase is a little bit difficult. But if you can get through the laning phase, obviously Fiora kind of misplayed a little bit during this laning phase. But normally if you play against like really good Fioras, they can take advantage because they have a lot of mobility. They deal a lot of percentage health damage as well, which obviously with Garen we're going to be dealing. We're going to be building a lot of health. Obviously Divine Sunderer is a big counter to Garen as well. Divine Sunderer Baron laners because, you know, again, you deal percentage health damage, which Garen has a lot of. But this game, we was able to get enough to get ahead and get enough to be able to hopefully win out here. So, obviously, first Dragon, first Rift Herald was taken by us. The second Rift Herald is coming up soon. I'm just, you know, I'm putting pressure here. You can see that I'm not really walking up too much. Fiora uses her ultimate and uses her ignite again. I'm not pushing up too far because I know that the enemy team might be here. So you can see I was just walking up to get into range, so then my minions take less damage. They can deal more damage to the tower. Fiora didn't go back to base. I was thinking here, I was like, should I flash in? Should I not? But I remembered that Fiora still had parry available. So again, I'm just backing off here. I'm not overextending. I'm not going crazy for this dragon because look at the minimap at the moment. I see absolutely no one on the map. I don't know where anyone on the enemy team is. So they could have easily rotated and easily tried to kill me if they wanted to in the bot lane for free. So it's just creating that pressure in the bot side of the map, allowing the team to go and take the dragon. And if the whole of the enemy team was at the dragon, I could have taken the tier 2 tower instead anyway. So again, with the Baron lane, it's always about knowing where the enemy team is, and minimap is always the most important thing. Looking at the minimap, understanding where enemy champions are, and understanding when you can push up and when you have to back off. You can see I go in on the Katarina here. You can see my damage is absolutely disgusting. This champion's damage, I flash in, I use my silence so she can't really dash away or do anything. I spin to win, I crit every single one of my spins, and then my ultimate just one-shots the Akali. And that's the, you know, that's really where Garen can shine, to be honest with you. Now I'm pushing the mid lane here. Obviously, I still have Hullbreaker. The rest of my team is in the bot side of the map at the moment, so I know that I can create pressure in the mid lane. So all I'm doing is I'm using my third ability to clear the wave, and I can easily try and push this mid lane tower. I'm going to try and take this mid lane tower. As you can see, you know, I take towers very, very quickly with Demolish and Hullbreaker. So meanwhile, whilst the whole enemy team was distracted on the bot side of the map, I was like, okay, I'm just going to push through mid lane, and I'm just going to easily take the mid lane tower, which gives us the inhibitor early on, which is very, very cool. So I think I'm thinking here, yeah, I'm thinking here what boots upgrade I want to go for. Because I'm quite far ahead, I just want to go for stasis because, you know, Katarina can one-shot me very, very easily. Same with Morgana as well. There are a few champions that can maybe, you know, bind me and do a lot of damage to me. So if I do get hit by like any crowd control or anything like that, then I can easily just use stasis and just survive for a little bit amount of time. So now I see at the moment that Katarina is in the top side. I'm going on to the Morgana here. I think I used my second ability a little bit too late. Yeah, I used my second ability a little bit too late, which meant that I took the full duration of Morgana's Dark Binding. I'm just baiting here for the Diana. I dodged the Thresh Hook. I unfortunately don't dodge the binding again, but Diana is here to hopefully clean up. No, it doesn't look like she's going to clean up in the end. But again, creating pressure on the bot side of the map. You can see my passive is kicking in. So I'm healing a lot. You can see my health is going up and up and up. And that's without Warmogs. Look at that. Without Warmogs, I'm healing 34 health every single time. So it allows me to stay in the lane. It allows me to push out this bot wave. And because I know that the bot tower is very, very low, I want to create this pressure. Again, it's understanding. The whole of my team is the top side of the map. The bot tower is very, very low. You can see I'm not walking up to the tower here just yet because I know that this cannon minion is not in tower range. It's a little bit difficult. You can see here, I dodge the hook. I try and go on to the Fiora. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to do enough damage. The stasis comes in. I don't think I do enough damage and I probably die here. No. Oh, wait. No, I don't think I do die. Thresh is trying to do enough damage, but no, I actually did enough in the end. I forgot about this play. So I was able to dodge the hook. I dodged a lot of damage as well. My stasis bided me enough time. That means when I came back alive, I had my second ability to take reduced damage and also still had my ultimate, so I was able to do enough damage. And the Fiora unfortunately mistimed the parry. So nice little cheeky 1v2 outplay there as well. As you can see, meanwhile, whilst Thresh's bot side on 1v2, my team were able to go top lane, able to take the top inhibitor. So now we just need to take Baron. Yeah, I mean, I was about to say that. Diana's pinging the Baron. All we have to do here is take the Baron and finish the game. At this point in the game, you realize that you're that far ahead, even if the enemy champions try and come towards the Baron. They're just going to get one shot. They're just going to die straight away. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm kind of working as a distraction, making sure that the enemy champions don't realize that Baron's being taken. But you can see three of my teammates, I know that they can easily take Baron. So again, I'm just working as distraction. I'm just getting vision, just checking Baron just to make sure how low it is. And again, look, I'm not walking up. I'm just a distraction. I'm just making sure that no one can get close enough to be able to take the Baron. As you can see, I did take a lot of damage. But again, all I'm doing here is I'm being the bait. That is all I'm doing here. Jinx, I'm not too sure. Yeah, Jinx does get the kill on the Lucian. And I think at this point of the game, we can finish off this game. And it's one and done. Diana played really well this game. It was really, really good. Again, a few little misplays by the Fiora on the enemy team. But still showing how strong Garen can be. Even at later stages, you saw, you know, how strong I was against the Katarina, and I was able to one-shot her. It's a very, very good performance overall, and showing you kind of how easy Garen is to play as well. You know, his abilities are not hard to understand. The gameplay, you know, his mechanics and everything are not hard to understand either. So yeah, just understanding all the little basic fundamentals of Garen is always the main important thing. And as you see here, we're going to take a look at our damage. 17,000 damage overall. So not as much as Diana and Ari, but obviously we were trading quite a lot in the laning phase. But after the laning phase, I was all about roaming around the map. I was trying to get advantages for my team. And to be fair, my tower damage was probably the most this game. You can see I nearly got the most gold in the entire game as well. Diana got a little bit more than me. So even though we didn't get a lot of champion damage, we still did a lot for our team in the end. So that is everything for today's guide. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's Garen guide. And I'll see you in the next Wilder video. Peace.